Hey, how's it going? I'm Ryan Hefner, and this is the All Play Podcast. So, the title of this episode is Just Oil the Chair. And it's been something that's kind of been lingering in the back of my mind for like the last couple of weeks now. I was actually listening to a podcast by Justin Jackson and Jeremy Enns, and it's on their podcast marketing trends. Let me pull up the name of the podcast. Podcast Marketing Trends Explained. It's on their Podcast Marketing Trends Explained podcast. And it's an interesting show. They basically dive into what goes into making a successful podcast, some of the numbers that are going around within the podcast industry. They do this annual report on podcasting. I mean, actually, it's kind of a bit of a humbling experience listening to the show and having a podcast. And they're talking about how, if your show's in the hundreds of plays, per episode, how do you get it up from there? It's like, well, I don't know. I've never hit 100, I don't think, on a single episode yet. So I got a ways to go, but I'm trying. And I guess part of trying is, one, you got to try to figure out a compelling story or thing that gets people hooked. But there was one thing that Justin Jackson said during one of the episodes that was kind of interesting. He said he actually stopped listening to a podcast because the person had a squeaky chair. And you know what? I was like, I have a squeaky chair. And I don't think he was talking about me, but who knows? He could have been. But that thought started sticking around in my head, basically since I listened to that episode. And so I got back from the run. And you know what I didn't do? I didn't oil the chair. I continued to kind of, just get back to work. I've been working and doing some live streaming at night. And so sometimes when I would fire up that live stream and I turn on the microphone, I'd be like, I wonder if my squeaky chair is going to get picked up in this microphone. Or if I did a recording for this podcast, I was like, I wonder if I shift around in this chair, are people going to hear it? And you know what? I should have just oiled the chair. And you know what I ended up doing? I oiled the chair. And actually, I think the chair needed some oil. I mean, it's no longer squeaky. It might still make a few noises here and there, but it's not a squeaky chair anymore. And actually, it kind of sits better now. I think the hydraulics or something in there actually needed a little bit of oil. So it was a good thing there. And it got me thinking, it's like, why didn't I oil the chair when I got back from that run? I knew that I had a squeaky chair, but I didn't. And, I think we put stuff off like that, but it was one of those things that every time I turned on the microphone, it was maybe kind of just like back there being like, yo, you got a squeaky chair, like oil it. And I didn't. And now that I did, I feel better about it. The chair is more comfortable. But it's just interesting to think about those things that you keep putting off. And, I'm kind of trying to uncomfortably put myself out here and talk about the projects that I'm working on and share some of these little thoughts that come to mind. And the last thing I need to be doing is also kind of being self-conscious about a squeaky chair that may or may not expose itself during the course of a video and be the thing that turns someone off from potentially listening to your podcast, because it's hard enough to get people to listen to these. Well, I don't know. You tell me. I don't have that many people listen to this podcast. I would like to make it better. I'm trying to figure out how to really have more compelling stories or updates to share, but I'm not really sure. I'm trying to figure it out. So, when you're uncomfortable, the last thing you need is like something that that could turn people off to turn them off. At the same time, if a squeaky chair is a thing that's going to send someone from not listening to your podcast, there's probably other problems with the show. And I could be comfortable saying that I don't think I've quite figured out my rhythm or flow for this, but I'm trying. I'm trying. And if, trying to have good audio and less squeaks in it is something that might keep more people around listening and hopefully engaging and reaching out, then I guess that's what I should do. Well, there's other things that I just don't know if I necessarily want to get behind, like the whole YouTube thumbnail thing and all this other kind of stuff. So, but I'm going to say that for another episode. But the one thing I can say is the chair probably needed some oil. I'm glad I oiled it. And hopefully, this would be one less thing that is a knock on having people listen and engage with this podcast. So I guess if you happen to have a squeaky chair, I recommend oiling it. It sits a whole lot better, and hopefully it'll keep a listener around so that they can hear what you're trying to share and say. So, all right. Again, I'm Ryan Hefner. It's the All Play Podcast. You can find episodes at allplay.fm, and I hope to see you on the next one. All right. Have a great one. Later.